Story 1. Storage unit. I became complacent and left it on autopay for 3.5 years. I spent $12,000 to maintain a couple of $100 worth of items. Story 2. I have been paying $20 to $30 a year for the past 5 years to own the web domain, my full name.com, but I have not used it at all. Story 3. Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix, PlayStation Plus, and Spotify are not all a waste of money, but I need to vent. Story 4. I sold 240 shares of Apple stock in January 2003 because we were buying a house, and I thought it would be nice to have an extra $6,600 in the bank. In my defense, I bought the shares at $14 and sold them at $22, and the iPod had been available for several quarters. Story 5. Borrowing or paying for others, including friends, acquaintances, and even family, who later prove to be hypocritical or jealous, can feel undeserving of your attention and resources. Story 6. A storage unit. Rent tripled in a year. It costs money to get rid of items in it. They will charge me if I abandon it. People often ignore you when you try to give things away for free. I know it's my own doing, but it feels like the bane of my existence. Story 7. Taxes apply to the money I earn, the food I eat, the car I drive, and the house I own. Then they tax the money I saved for retirement, which was taxed initially. Feels like a scam. Story 8. Health insurance. If I saved my premiums for a year, I could pay off my medical debt. In another 2 years, I would have paid off every bill they have ever covered, despite my above-average medical issues. I would much rather have the money and pay my own bills. Story 9. Thinking you have the correct streaming service to watch the playoffs only to be told you need to upgrade your plan to access them, and then discovering that only some of the games are available while all the other games are on a different platform is frustrating. I am tired of these services taking advantage of people. Story 10. Paying extra for a specific type of stone for a retaining wall. The same wall where I hired a landscaper to plant native plants in front. Therefore, that wall will never be visible. Story 11. Some higher education degrees do not necessarily contribute to job advancement. My bachelor's degree has not added value to the job I am currently doing. Additionally, to receive a pay increase, I need to obtain a master's degree. Story 12. Co-signing for my child's student loans feels like a waste. They are wasting the opportunity of a pre-med degree, having married into a family that takes advantage of the system. I am left bearing the burden, feeling that this is a waste of money, hope, and their future. Story 13. When you do your taxes, they ask if you want to contribute $3 to the presidential campaign fund. I know it's just $3, but if you have ever checked that box, I have no respect for you as an individual and a human being in general. Story 14. UK council tax. Roads are filled with potholes. I understand some of it is spent on important things, but £160 a month is a fortune for very little personal impact. Story 15. Very expensive home upgrades should be done properly, especially if you plan to keep the property indefinitely. However, if an external force requires you to leave, you risk losing significant appreciation and not getting your money's worth from the projects, as that was never your intention. Story 16. Movers that bid low held my belongings hostage and then asked for an additional $3,000. In the future, I will rent a truck and hire laborers, ensuring I maintain control over everything. Story 17. After a divorce, I am focusing on my recovery from gambling addiction. After leaving my ex, for whom I bought a $5,000 ring and spent $6,000 on her trailer, I am not inclined to spend money on women for a while. Story 18. About 8 years ago, my wife told me that my biggest waste of money was my adjustable dumbbell setup. So, I started using it frequently out of spite. Now I'm in better shape. Story 19. I guess I have a travel addiction, so all I do in my spare time is travel, and it costs a lot of money. Story 20. Home and contents insurance. I have tried to claim twice, and both times I was led through many loopholes that took months. If I hadn't been worn down and given up, they would eventually tell me that the cost of their premium or overhead was almost the same, if not more, than the actual payout. Complete scam. Story 21. Clothes and shoes I cannot wear, and I do not realize it until it is too late to return them. Shoes that have poor support give me blisters, and I have worn them 5 times before realizing they are bad shoes. Clothing that never fits right or that I just needed to lose 5 pounds to fit into. It is frustrating. I fall for it all the time. Women's fashion is disappointing. I wish I were happy with 1 pair of old jeans and a couple of t-shirts. Story 22. Wasting time, such as endless procrastination, indulging in uninteresting entertainment, or overinvesting in people and things that are not important to you, can lead to feelings of regret. Story 23. Rent is a waste. I know I have to pay it to have a place to live, but it's frustrating. A large portion of my income goes to greedy landlords. Story 24. It was interest payments on mortgages. I paid 23 years of interest on my first house, and all 3 houses after that were cash deals. Well, almost. I had to pay 1 month of interest on the house we are living in now because of the timing on the sale of the previous house. Mortgages, insurance, and banks hold 90% of America's money. Story 25. CVS charged me $500 for my flu and COVID-19 shot this year. Even though I'm insured and my insurance always covers my yearly vaccines, I contested the charge and lost. Now I'm paying it off slowly, but it feels like a huge waste of money. Story 26. Taxes, especially Social Security taxes, often lead to the feeling that no one receives back what they contributed. You would be better off saving cash weekly under your mattress. At least then you would get back 100% of what you invested, and you wouldn't be relying on its availability in the coming years. Story 27. Hobbies include sewing, leatherworking, woodworking, metalworking, lawn care, computer-related activities, steam sales, cooking gadgets, and fast food. I have ADHD and a great job that allows me to buy things, but I often feel broke while my house is overflowing with items I rarely use. I recently started selling things, but it pains me to see money lost. Story 28. Trump is going to end up costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 4 years for no reason. Story 29. Smoking. Considering how much money I've spent on it, I bet I could have bought myself a nice used car if I had saved it all up. Story 30. I recently started to quit vaping after 4 days. Do you have any advice on how to handle intrusive thoughts? Costs me about $20 a week. Story 31. Not buying a propane tank when I purchased this trailer was a mistake. I had no idea I would stay here long term, and the propane companies charge significantly if they own the tank, including rental fees and much higher prices per gallon compared to those who own their own tank. That said, I suppose I've been lucky if this is the worst situation I can reference. The key is knowing how to live simply and being okay with it. Story 32. I am sitting in a brewery, good music playing, drinking my second $9 glass of really good beer, and reading my Kindle. Craft beer is an expensive hobby to have, but I sure enjoy it. Story 33. Marriage ceremonies, funerals, parties, vacations, catering, wellness, painting nails, buying new dresses, plastic surgery, cars, gambling, expensive strollers, car seats, purchasing the wrong house, and not making early decisions in residency. Story 34. There was one mobile game I spent an absurd amount of money on. It didn't cause problems in my life, but it would have been better if I had invested that money instead. Story 35. Microtransactions in video games for loot boxes, such as Overwatch and Elder Scrolls Online, often lead to gambling for that 1 or 2 desirable items. However, the satisfaction from winning streaks and obtaining good items or skins can result in a desire for more. Story 36. Moving in with people just to escape a really bad situation. I should have stuck with family, saved money, and never considered it. The only thing I don't regret is having my cat out of it. Story 37. In terms of real dollars, hiring a general contractor was a mistake. I should have tried harder to get the attention of smaller crews and filed the plans with the code authority myself. The general contractor added nothing but cost and complicated matters for everyone involved. The biggest waste of money right now is auto insurance. Story 38. My husband is very extravagant, while I am not. It feels like we are always buying things just because they are new and shiny, Story 39. My first year in the Army, I bought a car. I spent my savings on a Dodge Challenger with a 28% annual percentage rate. I got a good deal. It was like 8% in 2002, and the payments were manageable. The car lasted me a while until 2015, even though the last few years were difficult. The real waste of money was that I bought the car and then got deployed within a year. After that, I was stationed at a base where I didn't even need it. Between buying the car in 2001 and getting out of the Army in 2007, I only put about 15,000 miles on it, and a significant portion of that was my parents using it while I was deployed. In hindsight, I could have just bought a $2,000 used car and invested the rest. Story 40. I refuse to pay for shipping and delivery charges for takeout. I wait until they have free shipping or a minimum spending amount to place an order. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it does. Story 41. Gas for my vehicles used to be $1 per gallon. Now look at the prices. I can't wait for them to go down again. It is currently $1.99. I am just waiting. Story 42. Energy drinks. I have a $1,000 machine at home. I am addicted to sugar and caffeine. I need to stop. Story 43. I am trying to start a used car business. I spent approximately $25,000 without selling a single car. After about 1.5 years, I decided to shut it down and pursue something else that is actually profitable. Story 44. I took a pay cut at work to be allowed to work a reduced schedule. They started getting upset when my output decreased, so I had to work more anyway with less pay. Story 45. The amount of sheet music I have purchased and given up on is considerable. I am a frugal person, and that $7 download is a lot for something non-essential. Story 46. Sectional couch from Paymore and Hat Again. I paid over $5,000 for it. It immediately started to fray, was uncomfortable and bulky, and came with about 400 uncomfortable pillows that I didn't want but was required to buy with it. I sold it about 4 years later for $140. Never again. Story 47. I can't eat the same meal 2 times a day or for more than 2 days in a row, so my meal prep is small. I love my food fresh and cooked nicely, so I often go a little over the top with making my own sauces and adding spices, herbs, and garnishes. Food is usually sold in awkward amounts for one person to consume, and it often costs me a lot of money. I admit I could be doing it cheaper, but food is essential. Sometimes the kitchen is messy, and the fridge and freezer are full because of my flatmates, so I end up ordering takeout as well. Story 48. Friend's startup had a solid idea, the technology was there, but there was no execution. After securing additional funding, the plans would expand significantly and become unattainable. Story 49. Paying $12 for a pint of beer at the local pub is becoming less common due to the high prices of alcohol. Story 50. Buying a brand new car. I made a $10,000 down payment and had to trade it in 2 years later for a bigger used car because we outgrew it. It was the biggest regret ever. Though it was exciting to buy something entirely new, it turned out to be a true waste of money. Story 51. A timeshare and resort condominiums international membership. Rising annual maintenance fees, exchange fees, and restrictive booking options make it more expensive and frustrating than many other travel options. Story 52. Dating apps are shaping up to be this. Besides that, maybe all the Warhammer Fantasy items I bought, I only got to play one game before they changed the setting, and no one else I know plays it. Story 53. A 10-year-old luxury performance car. With the cost of repairs, I could have purchased 2 identical model cars that were operational. Story 54. Weddings can be very costly, with some people spending the down payment on a house for a single-day celebration. Divorce can also be extremely expensive. Story 55. Political merchandise. No one cares about which candidate you vote for, and you're only doing it for attention. Story 56. I was 22 when I financed a 2015 Dodge Challenger Hellcat. I sold it 4 months later and needed to pay $12,000 due to depreciation. I will never do that again. I now own a paid-off car that saves me 10 times the amount of gas that the Hellcat consumed, so the $12,000 loss will balance out over a few decades. Story 57. Sending child support to my son's mother, while also covering expenses such as the car, insurance, and clothing. I have him 4 days a week, but thankfully that arrangement ends in 3 months. Story 58. The emotional void within me, filled with a damp sadness, sometimes needs to be alleviated with alcohol and junk food, as well as reckless and unnecessary spending. For example, last night I felt compelled to buy a t-shirt that cost $95 due to currency and shipping, even though I already have over 30 t-shirts. Story 59. My parents made me spend money on driving lessons, car insurance, and maintenance for 2 years. I didn't need a car because I lived in an area with excellent public transportation. 11 years ago, I moved to a different country and have not driven a car since. Story 60. Microtransactions. I spent around $10,000 over 2 years on a mobile game. It was absolutely insane. I became part of a close-knit group and became addicted to the grind and the desire to improve. We all knew it was crazy, but it was still hard to stop, and I didn't want to let down the group by quitting. It was really difficult to walk away despite the money I was spending. It's been 3 years since I finally stopped. Never again. Story 61. I am fighting my demons with alcohol, and I am 25 years old, just trying to buy a home and make myself proud. I am struggling, but hey, aren't we all? I wish everyone the best out there. Story 62. Ordering takeout and fast food can be expensive. I remember when McDonald's was cheap, but now my total is around $20. I can buy groceries, make my own dinner, and have leftovers. You live and learn. Story 63. I will buy 2 pairs of Jordans, each costing $200. Last year, I switched to wearing replica sneakers, which are the same shoes for $45, and they look great. Story 64. Buying items from high-end brands like Louis Vuitton and Prada can be incredibly expensive, and they primarily aim to enhance their brand recognition. It's not as if their products are of exceptional quality. In reality, they are similar to a $10 alternative. Sometimes, I simply do not understand how people can be so naive. Story 65. I just returned from a vacation to Disney. The kids didn't have as great a time due to the new Lightning Lane reservation system. Now we have to book a week in advance. Waiting in line for 60 minutes in 85-degree heat was terrible, and Magic Kingdom felt like walking in Manhattan. That place was disappointing. Story 66. Opiates. The strange thing is that even though I was functional and spent a significant amount of money on it, for the most part, I enjoyed it. Numbing emotional pain with euphoria is an incredible experience. Story 67. I'm thinking about all the video sites, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, starting to feel like cable. Amazon has its perks and Tubi is free. Oh, and the gym membership, I'm seriously considering joining a dojo for Taekwondo eventually. At least it's a good workout and you can learn how to kick very hard. Story 68. Neck and finger tattoos age faster than any other placements on the body and carry a risk of ink blowout. Story 69. My commute is unnecessary. I can do everything I need to and more from home, but my boss refuses to allow hybrid or remote work, despite his evident enjoyment of working from home. He leaves the office, goes home to log in, and continues working there for the rest of the night. There is no reason for me to be in the office, and it is a significant waste of my time and resources. My productivity increases dramatically when I have the rare opportunity to work from home. The office is noisy and distracting, while home is quiet, my equipment is better, and I am not interrupted every 5 minutes by unrelated conversations. Story 70. I have a Roomba and a robot mop. I have had them for 3 years, but have never used them because my dog has a problem with both. I keep them in hopes that one day I can use them. Story 71. Masturbation addiction has consumed me. I just spent 3 hours engaged in it, which feels like time wasted, especially since I spent $20 on a subscription. Now I feel foolish for not being asleep 4 hours ago. It's 3 a.m. I live a normal, active life and my social life is good, but I struggle with this issue. Story 72. I would like to have a gathering in the woods with my body on a pile of firewood, then set it ablaze when the time is right. I'm sure the authorities would not allow that. Why spend so much on a casket? No one will remember me anyway. Story 73. I bought an 80,000 Cadillac in cash. I love it, but I could have continued saving and purchased a small coffee shop or a trailer to rent out. I already have a house. Story 74. Financing a new car for 5 years and then selling it for half of its value to finance another new car. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.